So, almost 3 years now that you've been live.
Yep.
There's a lot of organisations out there undertaking their own programme move, either approaching go live or perhaps even just gone live and in that stabilisation period. So, given all your wisdom out there, what would you share with other organisations in terms of things that you've learned and real key takeaways for them to consider to help managing and ultimately living in the cloud?
Well, I'm not sure how long we've got, Aaron, for this, but I'll try and pick a few salient points that are very important. And I think that I mentioned that change is a really big part of this, and it's not just technology, it's about mindset and processes. And so I think I can't emphasize enough, that you've got to have the 3 Ps, which is, you've got to have the people, the process and the platform working together. If one of the 3 pillars wobbles, you've got a challenge on your hands, and sometimes it's very easy to focus on the platform, as in the technology, Oracle, when in fact maybe, it's a policy change and people just weren't aware of it. But of course, what we use with the new cloud system is, it's much more rule-driven, workflow-driven. It's much more data-centric, and rules are applied rather than, as you say, bits of spreadsheets and paper. So honestly, you need to try and develop this enduring change capability if you can, because EBS prior, as you and other customers be aware, I only know one upgrade to EBS, one serious upgrade when we went to R12. Not that I was part of that, but there was a big uplift. Whereas now, every 3 months, we're doing an assessment of the quality release, which we do ourselves, although Namos, I know, are always there to help us if we need it. So you have to really be aware that it's not a static conversation anymore, and bring people along with you on that journey, and that can involve a partner, which is great, but also internally trying to gain that momentum and support, which leads me on to something I feel that's been very successful at Norfolk, which is the senior stakeholder buy-in to the programme has been fantastic. We still maintain much of the governance we originally set up, and I know that at director level, and if they were here now, they'd say the same. They're extremely supportive in whichever part of the business we're referring to, from HR to payroll to finance or procurement. And I think that's really key. I think, having met some other people on my journey and they've asked me these sort of questions, I couldn't emphasise enough that you need to really have that top level buy-in, because a big change like that, you need to lead by example. And the kind of thing I'm inferring here is, if you're going to go self-service, well, it's going to affect, I want a PA or a business support person to do that, don't you? Well, those days are sort of a little bit behind us, right? I might have to approve that requisition myself, and I'm the assistant director. I'd like to say that's all gone very well for us, but that's all because at the top it was filtered down in a consistent way, and obviously people need that, don't they? I think if they see that, well, and they're leading by example, and it embeds that culture. So, I think the handling the change, senior buy-in is important. One of the early points we also made was we agreed both the vision and strategic design principles. Now, I'm sure people are familiar with that anyway, but our strategic design principles still stand to this day, and we can still refer to them at director level, that whenever we need to review any of our key decisions, we all know what they are and what led us on this journey. So some of those are like things like being resolute, because sometimes decisions can be quite difficult. So if you can agree strategic design principles at that top level again, again, that helps embed that across the organisation. And then the final thing I wanted to say, I know we talked about before, was we often, Oracle describe us as being very ambitious here, which, lowly, quiet Norfolk, by the sea. But we were ambitious. And I would encourage anyone else on this journey to also be ambitious, because you have this window of opportunity to make this change, and then stand up this, be frank, quite a large vehicle to make that happen. It's not a small ask, guys, and it will cost money, to make that change, but obviously you can reap rewards from that. So what you really need to do is be ambitious for go live, and the more you can do in that first piece, I would advise you do it, because I do know that on reflection, we went big bang go live, as I mentioned earlier, and I have seen people do it differently. So I would be open to not necessarily saying big bang go live, but I would say try and put in as much as you can before you go live, because it's a lot harder to then bolt things on afterwards, because you lose a bit of the momentum. You don't have the flexibility so much, or the resource, being honest, to do it afterwards. So be ambitious. It can be a bit scary. I get that. But, all I can say is Norfolk did it. I'm very pleased. I think we've considered a real success here, both with Oracle, Namos and other people we've worked with. So
brilliant. Looking forward, right, where does the journey take you now with Oracle Cloud? What are you looking to carry on doing, and what does the future ultimately look like?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because for me, it's really important that we continue our journey. As I said earlier, it doesn't end, it doesn't just stop and you put it in. Well, you can choose to do that, but that's not what I'd recommend. You want to continue to exploit the technology as much as you can. Oracle are always changing it. And for me and my team and the organisation here, we're really seeing now a new era where we move into really a more innovative kind of period as we exploit the product further, as we're obviously ironing out some of those gremlins that have taken a little while to iron out, and really then exploit it, pulling AI, putting in Redwood. I think it's exciting, and looking forward to an ever-evolving sort of future with Oracle. So,
Andy, thank you for taking the time today to share your insights with us.
Absolutely welcome, Aaron. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.